video on astrology, my dissection of astrology, and what I've gathered and learned from, and just me loving on patterns myself. Like, I just truly want to say and start with, I want us all to start seeing astrology as like patterns and archetypes rather than just the overall generalization. Like, when we start having like more of the lingo, because our astrology itself is just another language, it's just another thing. So when we start using those languages and start trying to incorporate in our lives, like, it's really nice to try to form our own patterns by doing that, like being like, oh, every Leo that we see is just so high energy, like I love that, like kind of thing is nice to have. But rather, like, that is really good to focus on because it's more community, like you're seeing someone's strength and how you can like have that be a value in your life, rather than being like, I don't like Scorpios, I don't like any of them, they're just so moody or something. Like, I don't know, that just came out of the top of my head. I wanna just avoid that, because that's what makes astrology just seem so like meh, but it's a tool for you. If you truly want to use it, it's an energetic tool to use in your life, and it's so beautiful once you like notice that for yourself, you know? So for me, for this video, like, I wanna talk about, I'm having the notebook there because I'm trying to learn how to at the same time, you know? I also want to include little bits that I know about numerology per each sign, and the season of life that each sign brings, like how an Aries is like your newborn time, and how like Leo's is more of your like teen to 25 time, like that. I'll explain a little bit more in depth as well. It was my understanding. If you have anything to add value of, or anything that you want me to expand on, please leave it down below. I love talking about astrology so much, like so much. So if you're into it, let me know, because I'm so about it, and I just want more astrology people in my life right now. Like, it's just like fueling my fire. Aries is the first sign of the zodiac, and also within like the zodiac seasons, within our actual like seasonal times, each season has its own mode. Not own mode, has its own modes. part of things. So each season has 3 modes. Oh my gosh, mathing it out in my head right now. So you have the cardinal, which is the initiation, the beginning. Then you have the fixed, which is the consistency, the structure. Then you have the mutable, which is more of the adaptability, the go with the flowness. And that's per each season. That's how we're able to like kind of, we're supposed to easily transition, you know what I'm saying? It's because we're not, as humans, acting on the laws of nature, that everything just feels so unnatural for us, but we're supposed to literally hibernate when it's winter, you know what I'm saying? But I digress, because I don't want to get into that conversation. Back to Aries. Cardinal sign, fiery, and because it's the first one, it's number 1 in numerology, which also means new beginnings and all those opening of portals, opening of just newness and projects, of all that fiery initiation start. Like, the Aries archetype just makes sense, and the archetypes in itself are the warrior, the daredevil, the pioneer, survivor. You have all of that within the Aries archetype. That's why their energy is so much power, like so much is because that's their archetype. It's natural for them to be those ways, you know? And the season of life for the Aries is when you're a newborn, when you're freshly out. Like, you're acting on what you just are seeing, what you just know at that time. You're acting on it. That's why that's why newborns are the way they are, you know? They're instinctual, because they just came out and they're like, what the, all right, let me just cry, let me just poo, let me just you know, all those things. It's just newborn energy, and that's Aries. I love that, because you need to have that initiation for this. Having a fiery person to initiate anything is gonna kickstart any kind of project, because you have every other energy to kind of balance things out and to try to end it. But I truly think fire signs are really good beginnings. Just like, let me do it. So having Aries as a first sign zodiac, love it. And what Aries can teach you when they come into your life, whether they're learning on their own and then you're kind of there to kind of witness it and also kind of learn from it, as a mirror, or what you might be learning from them in general, are like their boldness, their willpower, their strength, like their instincts on just like wanting to have that physical freedom, and to kind of just teach you that in a way, because Aries is also the sign of self, like to teach you like be selfish sometimes, like just do it for yourself, like kind of live this life for you. So if you're kind of having that Aries in your life, that's what they're kind of teaching you at that time, to just like have that freedom, that type of freedom. The shadow side of an Aries is having that kind of strong energy all the time. There's like kind of a natural essence to have and want and crave stress. So whenever it's really peaceful, that might be a worst time for an Aries, and that's when they have like confrontations that come out of nowhere, and just like chaotic energy that just like stems from, like if you're all sitting down on the couch, they're like the first ones to just get up and just randomly do something. Like that's an Aries. Like they just need that constant trigger. Constant situations that don't need to happen just out of stress. Like if you are just sitting down and you're just wanting to have a peaceful moment and you're tired at the end of the day, but that Aries energy is just like, let's do something, I'm bored, you're just like, you know. So it'd be like an imbalance of energies where the shadow side could come from and stem from, just like. And to end off with every sign, I want to say a question. So if like these signs do enter your life, what is something you can ask yourself? You know, what is something you can journal on as well? So for an Aries, when they come into your life, where in your life do you need to show up more boldly? Where in your life needs more action? It's my dissection of an Aries. Let me know how you feel. Aries people, let me know. Let me know. Rihanna. Now we're on to Tauruses, the second sign. And in numerology, that's like togetherness, relationships, and being a fixed sign, and our first fixed sign. So when you kind of want to take in like that Aries energy, you go into like everything that the Aries wanted to like initiate and do. You're like, okay, how can I make a routine out of this? How can I find peace within this? And that's kind of like the Taurus energy. So in the season of life for Tauruses, it would be like coming out of that newborn era into the first toddler era. So not yet like where you can talk, but more of like you're kind of seeing how everything is being played out. You're knowing who your parents are, you're understanding like noises, you're understanding like, oh, this might be when bedtime is, this might be when eating time is, oh, I pooped at this time. Like it's kind of like that inner knowing, a routine. And carrying the archetypes of a Taurus carrying these archetypes, the peacekeepers, earth spirit, musician, silent one. So this is kind of when that newborn era is going into the more internalizing moments. You know, you're done being like that, but now the cries are more like, you know why you're crying. Not like the baby would know why they're crying, but instinctually they know why they're crying, but they're internalizing it more rather than a newborn. You know, when Tauruses come into your life, like Aries and like with every other sign, they might be teaching this themselves, and you might be reflecting on it and mirroring it and seeing it, witnessing it type of thing, or they're teaching you. But Tauruses, like I said, like with the peacekeeping energy, they're trying to introduce how you can add more peace into your life, more harmony, more of that kind of balance. Like how can you be so infinite? And to quote Stephen Forrest on the book that I'm super inspired from, that I want to mention, The Inner Sky, really, really good reference book for astrology. This is where I got basically all my references from and just bounced off after this. So to reference him, Tauruses want to kind of inspire how to be like infinitely complex, but so simple, and infinitely complex where they can see the end game being so grand, so beautiful, because the Taurus's end game is to just be at peace. It's just when you're like overlooking the mountain, you're like, yep, I did it. This is good. I worked really hard. That's Taurus energy, you know? So they're seeing that end game, but the simplicity is their routines. Like Taurus energy is very like consistent routines, you know? And that's what they kind of bring into the lives that they're around and bring into themselves. Like that's the energy that they carry. A shadow side is because of keeping the peace, because of wanting to create harmony. This could mean like, and being the silent one, internalizing a lot, internalizing everything. And this could mean like a huge shadow side is abandonment within anything. So abandoning themselves by not speaking around their surroundings, of when they're feeling hurt, of when they're just feeling injustice, like the inability to speak on it right away, even though their energy really carries that, like they're not a confronting energy. So it's just like, oh, I really wish like this could be a balanced harmony in front of me. But I think a way to create that is, if I feel like I'm going through something big and it's gonna cause disruption, I'm just not gonna say anything. So that's like the type of abandonment. And for the question for Taurus, where in your life do you need more harmony and peace? Does your current routine give you peace? Let me know what you think, Tauruses. Let me know. Now we're on to Gemini, the third sign. The third sign. Oh, the sign of communication in numerology. And what are Geminis really good at? Like communicating. And they're also the first mutable sign that gets introduced into our lives. So this is when we're able to be a little bit more adaptable and just really go with the flow energy, just witnessing things. So this time of our life is like when we learn how to talk, and this is when we're learning how to just communicate with others, understanding each other, understanding ourselves, understanding language, understanding just all of that. Just how are we able to finally perceive things? How are we able to just see the world from an intellectual point of view now? That's when the Gemini is introduced. That's why a Gemini could have like what seems like chaotic energy, because there's just so much flow. Like there's so much to learn, understand, perceive, observe. Like it's just constant, you know? Archetypes of Geminis are the witness, the journal, storyteller, teacher. My eyes keep going back and forth. I'm not gonna keep cutting it because I just want to sometimes to just let this flow and just let this be as a practice for myself, because your girl wasn't good at in front of class presentations before. I was really shy and really sweaty and red. So yes. Having Geminis in your life teaches you about perception, observation, seeing things from so many perspectives, having flow and like constant motion, like always wanting to just have that stimulation be like fulfilled. And that could just like spark so much within you. Like curiosity, biggest superpower of Gemini is curiosity. And that's like helps everyone else kind of just be like, oh yeah, well yeah, why? And all these things. That's a great thing. I'm saying this as a Gemini Venus, like of course I'm saying that's a great thing. It's just constant information alert. Like you're just like, if you hear someone say something that you've never heard of, you're like, oh, tell me more about that, you know? And that's so awesome. But having that be like just like constant filling of the mind, this leads into like the shadow side, where having actually like those amount of flow, constant just like picking up on information of any kind, whether that be like learning or perceiving or observe, like all of that can actually lead to like an overexhaustion of your nerves. So anxiety, insomnia, like that can really happen with Geminis heavily, especially because they're an air sign. Air sign intellect, they're not so like naturally in depth with their emotions, so it doesn't naturally flow out the way that like criers can just cry. So like Geminis would just feel it instead, and it would just like go towards the body, feeling all of that. And because there's just always information going about in your head, and it can cause confusion, and then just like stories could be told wrong, stories could be told too much, there just could be like an over like what is that? Overextension of one story. What's that word when you make something up so big? Trying to make like something seem bigger than it actually is. Like those things could be like a shadow side of a Gemini as well, because you're just always trying to tell yourself something. And in the end, shadow side is just emotional exhaustion from all this mental unrest. Because our mind is so powerful, having so much tension in the mind like this can manifest like just kind of a chaotic environment because our mind is so powerful. So for a question for Geminis, what are some limiting beliefs you are experiencing that can hold you back from experiencing new? Where in your life can you expand your perspective? Geminis, let me know what you think. Let me know. Now we're on to the next sign of Cancers, and they're the fourth sign. So numerology of 4, what they could mean are personal power and stability. We're going back into the cardinal season, so we're heading into the next season, so summer, and back into the cardinal season. So this is heading into your next phase of life, which is cultivating that inner world. Because with the cardinal energy of Aries, feeling out our inner world, it was more of being expressive. Now it's more of internalizing it. Archetypes that go with the Cancer are the mother, the healer, the invisible being, along with the crab. During this season of life, it's kind of when you're still or heading out of like the initial puberty phase and into like learning what all this means and kind of like starting all these new connections and relationships, whether it be friendships, romantic, like all these things are your explorative time, and you're more curious about that when you're in those budding teenage years. It's also during a time where there's just emotional understanding within your community, along with yourself, as you're how to be guided by your intuition. When Cancers enter your life, they teach you this, whether they're teaching themselves this and you're getting to witness that through the experience by mirroring, or if it is something that they can actually teach you. Cancers teach you how to experience through your heart space, how to really feel out everything. And to quote Stephen Forrest, and just embodying like that crab energy, how to create minimal defenses consistent with survival. So thinking of the crab, like how small it is, but like crabs are just like that hard shell, right? That's how it keeps it protected from the outside world. But the inside world is like soft and gushy. It's soft and gushy. That's Cancer. That's Cancer. Also, being around Cancers teach you how to use your senses more, along with your intuition, or how to have more of a curiosity on how to use them a little bit better. A shadow side of a Cancer is that because they've cultivated such an amazing inner world, if it doesn't match on the outside or the external, there can be some reaction towards it, some resentment, some mothering type of energy. That can also be another shadow side on its own, the mothering energy. But that mothering energy could come out when the inside doesn't work on the outside. That's why a lot of Cancer archetypes can get really stuck in like potential of someone, because like the way that you can envision someone would be so grand and so big and so beautiful, but if they're not like actually enacting on it, you kind of come on to it like a mothering stance, like why aren't you doing this, like you could be doing this. So it's kind of those energies that could be a part of a shadow side. Like you definitely mean well, like your intentions of course are pure, but again, like this world is free, like full of free will, and if someone doesn't see their potential as you gratefully see their potential, like you have to leave it to them just waiting till they can find their potential on their own, because at the end of the day, no one can actually make someone fulfill that for themselves. A question for the Cancers: where in your life can you be more loving, trusting, and accepting? On to Leos, the 5th sign, and the numerology of 5 is change, and Leos love change or creating it. Going into another fixed sign, this is when you're keeping your first sense of your identity consistent. You're building on it too, like you're building on top of your personality, more with energy, more with flair. And this is when your ego is being like really developed during this time, because it's just really, this is when you're probably the most active around your community, when you're involved with a lot of different projects, a lot of different things. So your ego is just picking up on all these things on how to best protect you during this time. And that goes into the season of, I would say, like theoretically for my age thing, it's theoretically as if we're all living till 100. So everyone's timelines are completely, up like to their own accord and path and purpose, all that stuff, all that goodness. Time is also irrelevant, fluid, and all that, but I'm just saying from a very like point, theoretically if we're living to 100, this is the season of life kind of thing. For Leos, I want to say the season of life is around 15 or your teens to your mid-20s. It's how you want to be seen, led into the world. Like how do you want to start leaving your legacy? You start thinking about that during this time. This is also the time when you're relating to other people's perception of you, because Leo is also the sign of ego too. So like the perception, the validation, all that is like prime time. Archetypes of the Leo would be royalty, the performer, the clown, the child. So lots of energy from all different avenues, and having the astral body be the sun, there is just all that energy. And wherever a Leo is placed is kind of where they're meant to kind of brighten up everything, send all that energy to. So that's why Leos have just so much energy all the time. It's like, where can we lighten all this up? And I'm super biased because I'm a Leo, so a part of me is just like trying not to speak solely from my experience, but I'm just, when I read like the Leo archetype, I'm like, I feel like I just really fulfilled that. When you're around a Leo, what they're either teaching themselves during this time and it's being mirrored back to you, or something that they're actually teaching you through embodiment are bravery, courage, leadership, expression, charisma, creativity. And of course, with all this big high energy, there would definitely be a shadow side. The shadow side would be pride, and the shadow, prideful, constant need of validation, egotistic, temperamental. Though the constant validation thing, that you start to learn how to like, personally, I'm just gonna speak on this as a Leo myself, because I feel like Leos get such a bad rep for the validation thing. And just I want to say, there's an arc for the constant need of validation, and I personally feel like a lot of Leos don't get the validation because a lot of people are thinking, what could they be doing with that validation, even though that's like a core like underlying shadow need of ours. Like, so we would be having these arcs where we wouldn't be validated in the spaces that we're in. So then when a Leo learns how to validate themselves, that's when it's next level and game changer. And that's when they don't need it from anyone else. But it seems like they still, like from an outside point of view, it might look like they still would want it. I don't know. Now I'm going on the tangent of just defending the Leo thing, but I'm just so tired of people coming for Leos for all this attention and validation. It's like, no, we have energy and we know what we want to do with it. And if it turns out that we're awesome at it too, that's just a bonus. And if we want to show others, that's not just because we're just showing off. We just want to, you're good at that. That's it. It's not even to be like, we're better than you. We just need to hear it. Questions to reflect on with Leos. What kind of legacy or reputation do you want to leave behind? How is your connection with your inner child? Leos, let me know what you think. Now we're on to Virgos, the sixth sign. And for how I perceive numerology of 6 is the balance of the inner and outer world in terms of mind and body connection. Finishing the summer season with a mutable sign, this is when you're in that go with the flow energy, but more taking on that divine feminine role, whereas like you had all that big strong energy from that Leo season of what you were doing, and now you're just learning how to like perfect it, how to turn all that big energy, all those big projects into more of a practical routine, refinement, and just allowing all that like work that you did. Now you're in the kind of receiving mode where you're just like, you're working on what's in front of you, but you're not putting any more external work. Archetypes of this sign are the servant. And I do want to say these upcoming words could be like, those sound like so meh, because this world is just so me now. So these words might be a little bit like, but to me, they're great words. So the archetypes for Virgo are the servant, the martyr, perfectionist, analyst. Say this is the season between like your mid-20s to your mid-30s, because you did all those things for like your Leo season, and now you're just like, okay, why I don't think those words for the archetype is bad, especially like the servant and martyr, because for the servant, it's how are you helping others while fulfilling yourself so deeply. And I truly think that's what Virgo energy is. Example, how people love to volunteer. Like, you're not just doing it just for the people. Like, you have to have some sense of feeling good from doing those things. And there are so many people who love doing other things for others in terms of that. And that's the Virgo energy. You really don't mind doing the things for the people that you love in order to help them grow, in order to help them cultivate themselves. And it helps you as well because, you know, like you have that energy to want to do it. And with the martyr, it's like having that strong belief in what you're thinking is right. Like, and just even if you're standing alone in it. And that's how a lot of like service looks, especially to like this day and age, you know. I feel like when people do things out of just to do them out of goodness, there's a lot of expectations on why, but that's just, without that expectation, that's what the Virgo sign is to me. In that regard, I feel like that's what Virgos, when they come into your life, teaches you in terms of that, like the purity, and there's like a sense of detachment where you know you want to help, but you're also detached to like other things that are around you. Like the focus is pretty there. The focus is the service, and that's where you're detached to everything else, and hopefully detached to the outcome of it too. Virgos also teach perfecting idealism and like being led with your intuition, and I feel like all those three things in turn help shape your discernment. I feel like this is the sign that kind of helps with like strengthening your discernment, and discernment is like, it is intuition but also led with facts. So, and how can you use your skill to help others? They see like that potential in you and they want you to like really grow with it, and then with that, how can you use that to help other people? A shadow side of Virgos is I want to say almost similar to Cancers, where you have that strong idealism of what you want because of the service that you do, and like Cancers as well, because Cancers are the nurturing signs. So these signs are like the motherly giving signs, where like in a shadow sense, you can start to overgive, you can start to resent because the energy isn't mutual, and like you're feeling like the work you're doing is not amounting to like what they're doing, like, or like you're doing more work than they are. Like that could get in the way, and that could be a shadow for Virgos, like overdoing it. But like again, no one at the end of the day is making anyone do anything. Like, so I feel like with Virgos, to not head too much into the shadow side is to really be clear on the intentions of why you're doing that service and like who you're really doing it for, and then that could lead into like shadow working prompts, if anything. Like just know that whoever that you're trying to help, Virgos, know that you must help yourself first to be able to continue helping others. Self-criticism, self-acceptance, and sacrifice in the wrong ways are things that could be of a shadow side for Virgos as well, because of the like analysis, the constant analysis. There could be like that judgment within oneself first. Questions for if you're ever around Virgos: what are some projects you can spend your time perfecting? What are some ways you can use your skill to help the community? Virgos, let me know what you think. Well, that concludes part 1 of my astrology video. If you've made it this far, I really appreciate your time. Please list below your chart, your whole chart, if you really want. Like, I will get into it with you. I am very into this. Let me explore with you, you know? Include me in your dissection of yourself, you know? Let me help. Or if not even let me help, let me observe, please. But anyways, part 2 will cover the rest, of course. And yes, thank you so much for watching.